Chapter 1. Childhood. The evening sunlight slanted gently through the living room window. The boy sat down beside his grandfather, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Grandpa, what did you do when you were little? Did you play games on your phone like me?" The grandfather chuckled softly. "Ah, no, my boy. Back then, there were no phones, no screens, not even a proper telephone in many homes. We had stones, sticks, and most importantly, friends. That was enough to fill our days." The boy tilted his head, amazed. "Stones? How do you play with stones?" "Well," the old man smiled, "we stacked them into little towers. We drew lines in the dirt and flicked pebbles across, like marbles. After the rain, we played marble games until our hands were muddy and our knees stained. Oh, your great-grandmother would scold me when I came home, dirty from head to toe. But still, those were the happiest days." The grandfather's voice grew softer as he drifted into memory. There was a stream near our village. In the summer, my friends and I spent every day there. The cool water ran over our feet. Frogs leapt, and minnows darted through the ripples. We splashed until we were soaked. Sometimes we slipped and rolled in the mud. Then I would stand at the doorway of our house, trembling, afraid of your great-grandmother's scolding. The boy giggled. I got scolded, too, once when I jumped in puddles after the rain. The old man's eyes twinkled. "Then we are secret allies. The Muddy Puddle Gang." Both of them burst into laughter, the sound mingling with the fading light of the day. "But, Grandpa," the boy asked, "didn't you have a soccer ball?" "We had one, only one, in the whole neighborhood. The lucky boy who owned it was everyone's friend. The rest of us, well, we made our own." "Made your own? How?" The grandfather leaned closer, lowering his voice like a conspirator. "We rolled up old socks, layer upon layer, tied with string. And there it was, a round ball of sorts." The boy's eyes widened. "A ball made of socks?" "Yes, but there was a problem," the grandfather said, grinning. "The smell. Once we kicked that ball around, every dog in the village ran away from us." The boy laughed so hard he clutched his stomach. "Ooh, that's terrible." The grandfather laughed, too, but his tone soon softened. "Yet that sock ball gave us more joy than you can imagine. We chased it until the sun dipped below the hills. It didn't matter that it wasn't real. What mattered was the laughter, the running, the shouting of my friends. That was enough." He paused, eyes distant. "We didn't have much, you see. Our homes were small. Food was sometimes scarce, but our hearts were full. That is something I will never forget." The boy thought for a moment, then asked, "Grandpa, what did you want the most when you were a kid?" The old man sighed gently. "A real soccer ball. I thought if I had one, I would own the whole world. But now, looking back, the sock ball was just as precious. Maybe even more, because it taught me that joy doesn't come from the thing itself, it comes from the people you share it with." The boy grew quiet, watching the golden sky outside the window. "Listen, my boy," the grandfather said, his voice warm and steady. "Happiness isn't hidden in something expensive or fancy. It isn't in shiny toys or new gadgets. Sometimes, happiness is a simple stone, a shared laugh, a sunset painting the sky. Happiness is right there, waiting to be noticed." The boy smiled slowly. "Then I'm happy right now, because I'm here, talking with you." The old man's eyes glistened. His hand rested on the boy's shoulder. "And I am happy too, happier than words can say, because you're beside me, asking these questions, giving me this moment. This is happiness." That evening, the conversation carried on. Past and present sat together, trading stories, weaving laughter, and leaving quiet footprints of love in the room. Time moved forward, but memories, memories. always found a way to live again in the hearts of those who listened. Chapter 2. Love. The next evening, the boy returned to his grandfather's side, still curious. "Grandpa, can I ask you something else?" "Of course, my boy. What's on your mind this time?" The child leaned closer and whispered, as though sharing a secret. "Grandpa, what was your first love like?" For a moment the old man did not answer. His gaze wandered to the window, where twilight painted the sky in shades of rose and violet. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Ah, first love. That is a question as old as time. Everyone has one. Some last, some fade, but all of them stay in the heart." The boy's eyes sparkled. "Was she pretty?" The grandfather chuckled. "To me, she was the most beautiful girl in the world. Not because of her face alone, but because of the way she laughed. It was like bells ringing on a spring morning. When she laughed, the whole world felt brighter." He paused, shaking his head in amusement. "I was about your age when I first saw her. She sat 2 rows ahead of me in class. I never missed a single word. The teacher said, at least. That's what the teacher thought. But truth be told, I wasn't listening at all. I was watching her braid her hair." The boy giggled. "Grandpa, that's funny. Did you tell her you liked her?" The old man sighed. "That is where the story takes a turn. I was too shy. I wanted to tell her, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I wrote her a letter." "A love letter?" the boy asked eagerly. "Yes, a love letter. It took me 3 days to write it. I must have erased each sentence 100 times. My hand was sweating so much that the ink smudged across the page. In the end, it said something simple. 'I like the way you smile.'" The boy clapped his hands. "That's sweet. Did you give it to her?" The grandfather covered his face with his hands and laughed. "No. I slipped it between the pages of my textbook and never found the courage to pass it to her." The boy's mouth fell open. "Grandpa, then what happened?" "Well," the grandfather said, lowering his voice years later, "when I was already grown, your mother found that letter while she was looking through my old school books." The boy gasped, then burst out laughing. "She found your love letter? What did she say?" The old man laughed so hard that tears welled in his eyes. "She waved it in front of me and shouted, 'Dad, who's this for?' My face turned so red. I thought steam would come out of my ears. Even now, your mother teases me about it." The boy rolled on the couch, laughing. "That's the funniest story ever." The laughter faded, and the grandfather's voice grew gentler. "You see, my boy, first love is not always about marrying the person or staying with them forever. Sometimes it is simply about learning what it feels like to care for someone so deeply that you forget yourself." The boy tilted his head. "Did you ever see her again?" The old man shook his head slowly. "No. Life carried us in different directions. I never told her how I felt. But do you know something? I don't regret it. That memory is like a pressed flower in an old book. It may have faded, but it still has beauty." He leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed. "Love, especially first love, teaches us courage. Even when we fail to speak, the heart learns something precious. And sometimes the lesson is this: it's better to try and stumble than to stay silent and wonder forever." The boy was quiet, thoughtful. "So if I like someone, I should tell them?" The old man smiled warmly. "Yes, tell them. Even if your voice shakes, even if your cheeks burn. Because love is a gift, not a burden. Don't lock it away like I did. Share it." The boy looked at his grandfather with wide, innocent eyes. "Grandpa, do you think she ever liked you back?" The old man chuckled softly. "Ah, that is the mystery I will never solve. But perhaps that's what makes it beautiful. Sometimes not knowing keeps the memory alive." Silence filled the room for a moment, broken only by the sound of crickets outside. The boy leaned against his grandfather's arm. "Grandpa, I think I understand. Love is scary, but also special. The old man placed his hand gently over the boy's. Yes, my boy, it is both. And one day, you will write your own story of love, perhaps even your own letter. The boy grinned. But I'll be braver than you. I'll actually give it to her. The old man laughed heartily, the sound echoing through the warm night air. I hope you do. And when you do, I'll be right here, cheering for you. That night, as the boy drifted toward sleep, the grandfather gazed at him with tenderness. He thought of the girl with the bright smile, of the letter that never reached her hands, and of the lessons he had carried across a lifetime. And in the quiet of his heart, he whispered, First love may fade, but its echo lasts forever. Chapter 3. Family. The next afternoon, the boy climbed onto the sofa, where his grandfather was reading an old book. His voice carried the same curiosity as before. Grandpa, how did Mom and Dad meet? Did they fall in love like in the movies? The old man looked up, eyes twinkling. Ah, your parents, their story is not quite like a movie. In some ways, it's even better. The boy leaned in eagerly. Tell me! The grandfather set his book aside and began. When your father was young, he thought he was very handsome. He slicked his hair back, wore shiny shoes, and strutted like a rooster. He believed every girl in town was secretly watching him. The boy laughed. Dad, handsome? The old man grinned. Yes, believe it or not. But between us, your mother was the bold one. She saw him first and thought, this one is interesting. So she made the first move. The boy's eyes widened. Grandma asked Grandpa out first? Exactly. She walked right up to him and said, You look like you need a cup of coffee. Your father nearly fainted from shock. He was so busy trying to look cool, he forgot how to speak. The grandfather chuckled at the memory. From that day on, they spent more time together. They went for long walks, talked about books and music, even argued over which ice cream flavor was the best. Your father always chose chocolate. Your mother, strawberry. To this day, they still don't agree. The boy clapped his hands in delight. I knew it. Mom always buys strawberry ice cream. See? Some things never change, the old man said with a wink. He grew more thoughtful, his voice softening. Family doesn't start with a wedding. It begins in those small, ordinary moments, sharing food, listening, learning to forgive. That's how two people become one. The boy tilted his head. So family is like teamwork? The grandfather nodded. Exactly. A team that never gives up on each other. Sometimes they argue. Sometimes they drive each other crazy. But at the end of the day, they sit down at the same table. The boy asked another question, his curiosity endless. Did Dad ever do something silly when he was dating Mom? The old man burst out laughing. Oh, many times. Once he tried to impress her by cooking dinner. He burned the rice, overcooked the vegetables, and set off the smoke alarm. Your mother laughed so hard she had tears in her eyes. She said, Don't worry, I'll do the cooking from now on. And she's kept that promise ever since. The boy laughed until his cheeks hurt. That sounds just like Dad. Yes, indeed, the old man said, still chuckling. He tried too hard, but that's what made him lovable. The grandfather leaned back, his voice turning more serious. You see, my boy, family is not perfect. Parents make mistakes, children get angry, siblings fight. But love is what binds them together. Love and patience. He placed a hand over the boy's. Someday, you'll grow up and make your own family. When that day comes, remember this. It's not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's about sitting beside someone in silence and still feeling at home. That's family. The boy's face softened. I like our family, even when Mom yells at Dad for forgetting the groceries. The old man laughed heartily. Ah, yes, Every family has its little storms. But after the storm, the sun always returns. That's what matters. He looked out the window where the sky was turning gold with evening light. Family is the place where we are forgiven again and again. No matter how many times we stumble, it is the circle that holds us steady when the world outside feels too big. The boy nestled closer to his grandfather. "Grandpa, do you think I'll have a family like that someday?" The old man smiled warmly. "Yes, my boy. And when you do, you'll tell your children stories, too. Stories of how you met their mother, the silly mistakes you made, and how you laughed through them all. And maybe, just maybe, I'll be around to hear those stories, too." The boy grinned. "Then I'll make sure my story is even funnier than Dad's." The grandfather chuckled softly. "I look forward to it." As the room grew quiet, the boy rested his head on his grandfather's shoulder. The old man gazed into the distance, remembering not just his children's first steps, but the long path of life that had brought them here. And in that silence he whispered to himself, "Family is not built in a day. It is built in a lifetime, moment by moment, laugh by laugh, tear by tear." Chapter 4. Failure and Courage. The boy was back the next evening, swinging his legs as he sat beside his grandfather. "Grandpa," he asked, "have you ever failed? Like, really failed?" The old man smiled, a little wistfully. "Oh, yes, my boy, more times than I can count. Failure is an old friend of mine." The boy's eyes grew wide. "But you're so smart. How could you fail?" The grandfather chuckled. "Being smart doesn't protect anyone from mistakes. In fact, sometimes it makes the mistakes bigger. Let me tell you a story." He leaned back, folding his hands in his lap. "When I was a young man, I wanted to start my own business. I dreamed of making something, big something that would take care of my family and give me pride. So I borrowed money, worked day and night, and poured my whole heart into it." The boy leaned forward eagerly. "Did it work?" The old man shook his head slowly. "No, it failed. The business collapsed before it even had a chance to grow. I lost money, and worse, I lost confidence. I remember sitting in an empty shop one evening, the lights dim, wondering if I had ruined my future." The boy's voice was soft. "Grandpa, that sounds really sad." "It was," the old man admitted. "But sadness is not the end of the story. Do you know what your grandmother said to me that night?" "What?" She put her hands on her hips and said, "Well, are you going to sit there forever? Or will you get up and try again?" The boy laughed out loud. "That sounds like Grandma." The old man laughed too. "Yes, indeed. She has always been the strong one." And so, with her voice in my ears, I stood up. I tried again. Not the same business, but another path. And though I stumbled many times after, each stumble taught me something new. He grew more thoughtful, his voice steady. "You see, my boy, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Each mistake is like a teacher, sometimes strict, sometimes painful, but always valuable." The boy nodded slowly. "So failing doesn't mean you're done?" "Exactly," the old man said firmly. "Failing only means you are still on the journey. The only true failure is giving up and refusing to walk further." The boy tilted his head, curious. "Did you ever promise Grandma you wouldn't fail again?" The old man laughed so hard he wiped tears from his eyes. "Oh, too many times. Every time something went wrong, I told her, 'This is the last time, I promise.' And she would roll her eyes because she knew another adventure was coming. To this day, she still teases me about all my last times." The boy giggled, covering his mouth. "Grandpa, you're funny, but also brave." The old man shook his head gently. "No, not brave. Just stubborn enough to stand up again. Courage is not about never falling, it's about rising, even when your knees ache." He looked out the window, where dusk settled softly. Life will push you down, my boy. Sometimes gently, sometimes hard. And each time, you will have a choice: stay on the ground or rise again. Rising will hurt. It will feel heavy. But once you take that first step, you'll see the world is waiting for you. The boy whispered, I think I want to be like you, Grandpa. Even if I fail, I'll get up again. The old man placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, his eyes shining with pride. That is the spirit. And remember this: when you fall, you are never alone. Your family, your friends, even old grandfathers like me will be there, holding out a hand to lift you up. The room grew quiet for a moment. The boy leaned against his grandfather's side, thoughtful and comforted. Grandpa, he said softly, if you hadn't failed, would you still be the same person today? The old man smiled. No, I would not. Failure carved lines into my hands and wrinkles into my face, but it also carved wisdom into my heart. Without those moments, I would be a smaller man. I would not know how strong I could be. He whispered almost to himself, failure is not a tombstone. It is a stepping stone. Each stone led me here, to this moment, to you. And for that, I am grateful. The boy closed his eyes, resting in the quiet rhythm of his grandfather's words. And as night embraced the house, the old man thought, not with regret, but with peace. I failed often, but each time I stood again. That was my greatest success. Chapter 5. Happiness. The boy arrived one quiet afternoon, holding a cookie in his hand. He sat next to his grandfather and asked with a curious smile, Grandpa, what is happiness? Is it having lots of toys or eating cookies every day? The old man chuckled, his eyes twinkling. Well, cookies do help, he said, stealing a small bite from the boy's hand. The boy laughed and pulled the cookie back quickly. But happiness, the grandfather continued, is more than toys or sweets. It is simpler, yet greater. He leaned back in his chair, his voice soft but steady. When I was young, I thought happiness meant success. I wanted a big house, fine clothes, a car that would make neighbors jealous. I thought, if I can get all these things, then I will be happy. The boy listened closely. And did it work? The old man shook his head gently. No. Each time I reached one goal, I found myself wanting another. The house was never big enough. The clothes went out of style. The car grew old. Chasing happiness that way is like chasing the horizon. You can run forever, but you never reach it. The boy tilted his head. Then what is happiness really? The old man smiled warmly. Happiness is right here, in the ordinary moments. It's in the laughter we share, the warmth of family at the dinner table, the comfort of knowing you are loved. True happiness is not something you chase. It is something you notice. The boy thought about this. So happiness is like sitting here with you? The grandfather's eyes softened. Exactly. This moment, you and I together, is happiness. It may seem small, but one day you will look back and see how big it truly is. He paused, then added with a grin, of course, happiness can also be a warm bowl of soup on a cold night, or the smell of fresh bread baking in the oven. The boy laughed. That sounds delicious, not just happy. The old man nodded. Yes, sometimes the two are the same. His voice grew more reflective. You see, my boy, people often think happiness is waiting in the future when they have more money, more success, more things. But if you only look ahead, you miss what is already beside you. Happiness is not tomorrow. Happiness is today. The boy's eyes widened. So even if I don't have the newest toy, I can still be happy. Yes, the grandfather said firmly. You can be happy with what you have, with who you are, and with the people who love you. That is the secret. Happiness is gratitude wearing a smile. The boy was quiet for a while, then asked, Grandpa, what was your happiest day? The old man thought for a long moment. There were many. The day I married your grandmother. The day your mother was born. The day I held you for the first time. Each of those moments was filled with a joy so deep I could hardly breathe. But you know what? I also find happiness in smaller things like the sound of rain on the roof or the way the garden smells after a summer shower. The boy smiled. I think I like those things too, especially the rain sounds. Then you already know, the old man whispered. The boy leaned closer. But Grandpa, what if someone is sad? Can they still be happy? The old man placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Yes, my boy. Happiness doesn't mean you never feel sad. Sadness is part of life, but happiness is the light that keeps shining, even when clouds cover the sky. Sometimes it's small, sometimes faint, but it is always there, waiting to be seen. The boy's voice softened. So happiness is like a candle? The grandfather nodded. Yes, a candle in the dark, and the more you share it with others, the brighter it becomes. The room grew quiet, filled with the sound of the ticking clock. The old man's gaze lingered on the boy, his heart swelling with tenderness. One day, he said, you will chase after many things, success, dreams, love, and that is good. But never forget happiness is not found at the end of the road. It walks beside you, step by step. You only need to notice it. The boy rested his head on his grandfather's arm, cookie crumbs still on his fingers. I think I'll try to notice more, Grandpa. Like right now. The old man kissed the top of his head. Good, because right now, this is my happiness too. And as the afternoon sun spilled gently across the room, both grandfather and grandson sat in quiet contentment. No riches, no trophies, no grand celebrations, only a cookie, a laugh, and the unspoken warmth of love. And that, the old man thought, was happiness itself. Chapter 6. The Final Question. It was late in the evening. The house was quiet except for the sound of crickets outside the window. The boy curled up beside his grandfather, his voice softer than usual. Grandpa, he whispered, will I grow old someday? Like you? The old man looked down, surprised by the seriousness in his grandson's eyes. He smiled gently. Yes, my boy, everyone grows old, if they are lucky enough. Time carries us forward, step by step, whether we notice it or not. The boy's brow furrowed. But is it scary? Getting old? The grandfather paused, gazing at the lamp's golden light. Sometimes, yes. The body grows slower. The hair turns white. The hands that once built and carried now tremble. But do you know something? Growing old is not just about losing. Strength, it is also about gaining wisdom. The boy tilted his head. What kind of wisdom? The old man's eyes softened. The wisdom to know what truly matters. When I was young, I worried about winning, about owning, about proving myself. But as the years passed, I learned that life is not about collecting trophies. It is about collecting moments like this one, with you. The boy leaned closer. So being old is not just about wrinkles? The grandfather chuckled warmly. No, my boy. These wrinkles are maps. Each line tells a story of laughter, of tears, of battles, fought and lessons learned. My face is a book, and if you read it carefully, you will see my whole journey. The boy studied his grandfather's face with wonder. Then your wrinkles are beautiful, Grandpa. The old man's eyes glistened. Thank you, my boy. That may be the kindest thing anyone has ever said to me. Silence fell between them for a moment, gentle and unhurried. Then the boy asked, Grandpa, will you always be here? The old man drew a deep breath. One day, I will not. That is the truth of life. We all have beginnings and endings. But listen carefully when that day comes. I will not really be gone. I will live in your stories, in your memories, in the lessons I've given you. Love never disappears. It simply changes form. The boy's lips trembled. "But I don't want you to go away." The grandfather gathered him into his arms. "I know, my dear. I don't want to leave either. But one day you will be strong enough to carry me in your heart. And when you tell your children about your grandfather, I will live again in your words, in their laughter, in the love that passes on." The boy's voice was muffled against his chest. "Will I be brave enough?" The old man stroked his hair. "Yes, because courage is not about never being afraid. It is about holding on to love, even when you are afraid. And you, my boy, already have a heart full of love." The lamp flickered softly, and the night deepened. "Life," the grandfather whispered, "is like a river. We all begin in the mountains, small and uncertain. We flow through valleys and plains, meeting other streams, gathering strength. And in the end, we reach the sea. The journey ends, yes, but it also continues. For the sea gives birth to clouds, and the clouds bring rain, and the rain begins the river again." The boy's eyes shone as he listened. "So even when the river ends, it doesn't really end?" "Exactly," the old man said. "And that is what you must remember. My river will join the sea one day, but your river will continue to flow. And as long as you remember me, a part of me will always flow beside you." The boy's eyelids grew heavy. He leaned against his grandfather, comforted. "Grandpa," he murmured, "I think I understand now. Growing old is just part of the journey." "Yes," the old man whispered. "And what matters is not how long the river runs, but how much laughter, love, and kindness it carries along the way." The boy smiled faintly as sleep pulled him closer. "Then I'll carry a lot of love in my river, too." The grandfather kissed his forehead. "And that, my boy, will make your journey a beautiful one." The room grew quiet. The only sound, the soft breathing of the child, asleep in his grandfather's arms. The old man gazed at him with a heart full of peace. And in that silence, he thought, "Yes, one day my journey will end. But tonight, here, with this child in my arms, I am exactly where I am meant to be."